It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. This is Charlie Block, C Block. The date today is February 6th, 2025. And John is saying some real wacky stuff so far this morning, and Brad's trying to reel him in. Isn't that the way it is, John?
That's the way it is in the alternate universe today, Brad.
Okay. Here's a history question for you, John. If you go into St. Charles City, there's a street called Main Street. And what you will find is, once upon a time, that was the capital of the state of Missouri, okay? And that's why you have a street called First Capital, and you have a lot of businesses, First Capital of this, First Capital of that, okay? Why did the state of Missouri move the capital?
Was it because of flooding or because they wanted a central area where everybody could get to easily?
Bingo. They wanted a central area where everybody could get to easily. And the middle of the state. If you're up north, Jefferson City's in the middle. If you're down south, it's in the middle. East, west, no matter where you're at, by car, you're probably no more than about 3 hours away from Jefferson City. Would you pretty much say that was the truth?
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Okay. If Donald Trump was smart, he would come on TV this morning and say, I've talked about this swamp thing, and it really bothers me about the swamp. And you know what? It's entrenched. And you know what? I figured out that there's no way I'm really going to be able to clean out the swamp. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to move the capital, and we're going to move it to this place where nobody wants to live, northern Missouri. We're going to buy up a bunch of farms, and we're going to buy a bunch of acres. And first off, I'm going to, talk to those guys with the power lines. I'm going to let them put the power lines right through the White House, which is going to be located somewhere south of the Iowa border in northern Missouri. And that will be the new capital of the United States. It's easy to get to from practically anywhere. If you're in California, you only have to go halfway across the country. If you're in Maine, you only have to go halfway across the country. If you're in Honolulu, well, you still have to fly over the Pacific, but it's closer than it is right now. The new capital of the United States will be in northern Missouri. What do you think, John?
I think it's a terrible idea because people in northern Missouri don't want swamp creatures there. I think on paper, Brad, it sounds fantastic. I think everybody would love it except for the people of northern Missouri. Do you want a bunch of pointy-headed bureaucrats coming in and living and going to your Casey's and buying your Casey's gas station pizza? No,
I would not. Talking about you hit home right with there. There's some days when I'm in Washmo and I get this craving for Casey's pepperoni pizza, and I go there, and as I walk in, there's a guy right in front of me, and there's 2 pieces of pepperoni pizza left, and that guy goes right in front of me and grabs the 2 pieces of pepperoni pizza, and I'm going like, damn it!
Son of a gun!
Right, son of a gun! I was eating lunch at Casey's, and the guy grabbed my 2 pieces of pepperoni pizza. That would be the same thing. See, no, John, think about that for a minute. You talk about putting people, people would explode. And not only that, Trump, and I'm making light of this, Trump could say, we will have great airports. We will have an airport to the north of the new Washington, D.C., to the south of Washington, D.C., to the east and the west, and all the helicopters can fly around in the middle, and we won't have to worry about, getting in the traffic patterns of Reagan or anything like that. And instead of having Reagan National Airport, we could have Truman National Airport.
Oh, I like that.
Truman National
that'd be
Airport.
Good. And then it would be hard for Democrats to oppose it because it's a Democrat name.
Right. They go like, and the interesting thing about that one, then they would send up Bill Eigel there, and he would get rid of the Dewey Decimal System because of the fact that he would say, okay, I know this has nothing to do with libraries, but Dewey almost beat Truman. And you know what? I feel so bad because of the fact that we had an almost president who was a Republican who beat Truman, but he didn't. And we're going to get rid of that name Dewey, right?
Yeah, I think that, and here's the thing, you would get buy-in from folks from Iowa because they would benefit economically from this. It's not the worst idea you've had, Brad. I mean, there's a lot of competition for the worst ideas you've had, but it's not the worst idea you've had.
John, I will tell you that I went to the Central West End last night. This is maybe why I'm behaving. And I had a mushroom pizza. And
what kind of mushroom was it?
I found out this morning they were magic mushrooms.
I bet they were. Now, in real life, did you go to the Central Rear End, or are you joking?
No, I did not. Okay.
Okay, good. I was about to fear for your safety, Brad. It's not what it was when I lived there,
Okay, here's a story that I don't understand. And, John, you're the expert in this kind of stuff. Why is this a news story? The news story is that Trump is planning on being at the Super Bowl this Sunday, and no president has ever attended the Super Bowl. Why is that? Why has no president ever been to the Super Bowl?
That's surprising to me. I'm really surprised that maybe because baseball was always considered America's game, but I find it hard to believe that no president has ever attended the Super Bowl.
I'm reading the article here. It says, as the countdown for Super Bowl LIX continues, a high-profile U.S. political figure is expected to be on hand. And it says, the report that Donald Trump will likely be in attendance when the Kansas City Chiefs, blah, 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 blah. And it talks about the fact that there has never been, let me read the actual paragraph. It says right here, Trump would be the first sitting president to attend the game per the New York Post. Why is no sitting president ever been to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I can't believe that. So you think so let's go president through president, or let's just take one example. Remember the 1980s, the mid-80s, the 49ers were dominant, the Joe Montana era. Ronald Reagan's from California,
right,
as governor, before president. Why wouldn't Ronald Reagan want to go celebrate the 49ers?
I have no idea. And you figure he was in office for 8 years. He had 8 chances to go to a Super Bowl, never went to one of them.
Yeah, it's very and especially, and then you think of presidents that are kind of like guys, like Clinton, George W., even Obama to some extent. It's surprising they wouldn't swing by the Super Bowl. Who doesn't love? I don't watch football every week, but I'm going to pay attention to the Super Bowl.
Okay, there's an interesting theory behind this, is that one of the people, and I read this is a truth. I wouldn't make stuff like this up. But the reason I heard that Trump is going to the Super Bowl is he's going to throw out the first referee and put in one of his refs who will not call the game for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what I heard.
Oh, there you go. It'll be a little bit more fair. You won't have so many bad penalties called.
Now, remember last year when, the tradition is every year the network that runs the Super Bowl gives the president like a 2-minute address, something like that, and Biden turned it down. Why would he do that?
That's well, I don't know. I mean, Joe was in really serious cognitive decline there. I don't know. I don't know. This is a really surprising anecdote, Brad.
Well, I'm not making it up. Okay, we talked about this the other day, that the governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, said that he's got an illegal immigrant that lives in his garage, above his garage.
Yeah, so did something happen with that?
Well, Tom Homan says, you either love this guy or you hate this guy. He says he would seek prosecution of the New Jersey Democrat, or the New Jersey governor, if he really did have an illegal living in his house. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, would you love to see the ICE guys show up at Phil Murphy's house in New Jersey and say, okay, here's our battering ram. We have a search warrant. It's a no-knock search warrant. But Governor Murphy, since you're the governor, we'll give you the courtesy of opening the doors up. Otherwise, we will exercise this no-knock search warrant. And guess what? Your door's coming down, and we're finding you're illegal. And the point that I made, that I heard Armstrong and Getty talk about, which they're sort of warped like me, they made the same comment. Like, that would be like saying, I like black people. I've got a black person that lives in my house. Well, actually, they live in the clothes closet. It would be like
back in the doghouse.
Right. It'd be like, okay, how come they don't have a bedroom? I mean, the idea being was
they're second-class citizens.
Right, exactly. He's saying, well, I've got an illegal that she lives above my garage. Now, unless above your garage, and you've seen some of these fancy schmancy houses. I've seen some of these houses that living above the garage would be like living in the Taj Mahal. You know what I mean? And matter of fact, there was a house that went up for sale in St. Charles County not too long ago, who was occupied by a woman that I knew, that I actually did business with, Christina Zika. And if you know who Christina Zika is, she had a house, her and her husband. I didn't know they lived like this. This was on Facebook. She was talking about, my house is for sale. My husband and I are moving to Florida. We both retired. We're moving to Florida, okay? The house had a 3-car garage attached to it, but a detached 8-car garage. 8-car garage, which had its own living quarters, its own bathroom, its own kitchen. I'm thinking to myself, I am in nirvana. I mean, I would buy that property in a New York minute. I would rent out the house. I would live in the damn garage. I mean, you couldn't pry me out of that garage. I would be
Do you think maybe, let me interrupt, Brad. Do you think maybe her husband set that up to avoid spending time with her?
No,
Oh,
not
okay.
not
Well,
with Christina.
pardon me for ever suggesting that.
Everybody would want to be with Christina. She was one of those kind of people. Matter of
I
fact,
never met her. I don't know.
Oh.
I mean, she's got the last name of a famous disease.
Zika. Okay, she was a military vet. Okay, now here's the great story, and she used to come into the station all the time, and she used to be one of the guests on our talk station. We did The Mouth back in the day, and she told, and we had what we called Warrior Wednesday, when we had vets. Literally, the front door of the radio station was open. Any vets could just come in and sit down and be on the radio. We did it all the time. It worked out great. It was a wonderful situation. We had vets come in and tell stories. You know, Vietnam vets, Korean vets. And we had a World War II vet come in from time to time, who was an interesting guy. She came in one day and told the story how she became a vet. She was going to college, and there was a recruiter on campus that said, "Hey, if you're having trouble making your tuition payments, join the Army National Guard and we'll help pay for your tuition. And you only have to go to summer camp, which is 2 weeks in the summer." So she says, "I'm there." So she joins the Army National Guard, and as she tells it, a year later, she's in Kuwait.
They made it seem like summer camp.
Right.
Like it's a Cub Scout camp.
Right. Her unit got called up to Kuwait, and she was in Kuwait. Now, she doesn't complain about that, because she said it was a little bit of a shock, because once again, she thought all she had to do was go once a month for the reserve meetings and, 2 weeks a year for summer camp and stuff like that. She ended up in Kuwait. She was flown over there in like a C-130 transport plane or something like that. But she said once she got there and once she realized that she was really doing this for her country, everything changed. Now she's a proud vet. But I don't know what her husband did, but I'm telling you, when I saw this house, I thought to myself, oh my God, I'd die and go to heaven. 8-car garage. I mean,
think of how much clutter and lawnmowers and broken down equipment you could put in there, Brad. I mean, you talk about the Beverly Hillbillies moving into a nice area. Imagine how many broke down lawnmowers you could jam in there. I got this great. I drove across 14 states to save $20 on this lawnmower. Isn't that great?
John, you're making fun of me again. See, once upon a time, Once upon a time, I had 14 lawnmowers. Okay, I think I'm down to. I think I have 7 now. I have 7 lawnmowers. Okay.
Well, I mean, the hard thing for you is, I still can't believe that you're not part Mexican when you tell that story.
Well, the last one I bought. Do you want to hear my last story I bought?
I do want to hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook Marketplace. This is December, a couple years ago. I'm on Facebook Marketplace. When do you buy a lawnmower? You buy a lawnmower in December and January, because the prices are real low. So I see this listing for a bunch of, it's 3 John Deere commercial walk-behind lawnmowers. Okay, you know what a commercial walk-behind is? It's one of the big...
Yeah, I do know. Yep.
Okay, commercial walk-behind, and they're not cheap. Nowadays they're probably starting out. They're probably $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. Okay, and I see this listing, and it says 3 available, and it shows the picture. I'm thinking, holy cow, those are nice-looking lawnmowers. So I text the person, and I said, do you still have them? Yes. First come, first serve. And the guy gives me the address. Okay. So I go to the address, and I'll just say that I'm glad that I carry, if you get what I'm saying.
It was in North. You told the story before, but it was in North City, right?
Yes, it was in North City, and it's 2 black guys who were very nice, who were lying their butts off because of the fact that they told me that they had. And the interesting part of it was later I found out from a real estate friend that she knew who these guys were, and they were like clean out crew. They, like if someone, they would hire them, the real estate company. And it was sort of sad, because this is what happened. An old guy owned this house, had a lawn care service, but he hadn't run the lawn care service in like 10 years. And he had all this equipment in his garage. He had a snow plow, and he had all this commercial.
And they were lying. I don't want to step on the punchline, but they were. First of all, they didn't own it, and they knew nothing about these machines, right?
Oh, no. They told me they were the lawn crew, and that they used these lawnmowers, and they just used them a couple months ahead of time.
Yeah, sure.
So I said to the guy, I didn't have my truck or my trailer or anything like that. I said, okay, I'll give you $250 if you deliver it to my house. And they go, okay, fine. So they show up at my place, and I don't know how in the world they got the lawnmower in the back of the truck, because these are heavy lawnmowers. This is not like kind of thing you can put in your trunk. This thing probably weighs, and I'm not kidding when I say this, probably weighs 900 pounds. Okay, so they go on the way to my place, they go by Home Depot and they buy 2 2x4s, and they're going to roll it off the back of the truck into my driveway. Okay, so as they roll it off the thing, the 2x4, one 2x4 breaks and the other 2x4 shifts, and it falls on the guy's foot. And I'm going like, okay, I'm going to get sued. Okay, long story made short, I give him the money and I got my lawnmower. Okay, it would not start. It was messed up. If you've ever had a car that hasn't run for several years, the gasoline inside the carburetor turns to jelly, then it turns to like lacquer. It turns to like...
Yeah, very viscous.
Well, no, it becomes hard lacquer. It becomes like hard plastic. So I tear this thing apart, and I open up the carburetor, and the float bowl, it's like... you ever seen these pictures of when the what do you call it, the archaeologists go and they find like these bees that are embedded in amber? The carburetor was like a bowl of hard amber. And I'm going like, yeah, right, guys. You just used this a couple months ago. This thing hadn't been used for years. And it turned out that it's a bizarre, weird story, but I know a real estate agent. She knew exactly the property I was talking about. And she said the guy had died. Sure enough, he died. And the house had gone through probate. And he was dead for like 3 or 4 years. And he hadn't done any lawn care work in like 15 years. And that's why these lawnmowers, which were old, they were like, 90s vintage lawnmowers. And they were in pretty good shape, but they hadn't been run for like 15 years. So that's my crazy story of how I got.
Have you used them?
Oh, well, I bought a new carburetor, and I had to buy a new fuel pump because it was all gummed up, and I got it all back together, and yeah, I use it all the time.
Wow, that's awesome,
yeah,
Brad.
It's actually...
And when do you think you'll start your lawn care regimen? Like, how soon?
There was a time, and I've sort of slacked off. There was a time when I had 4 people I used to cut their grass. Did I ever tell you about, one of these days I'll tell you about Brad's Sunday only lawn service? Did I ever tell you this story?
No, I didn't. I did hear a rumor though, Brad, that if I ever break up with you, then you'll come mow my lawn.
And I don't want to mow your lawn. I'll fertilize it, and I'll do slit seeding and the whole bit. I mean,
Brad, fertilization and dealing with slit sounds a little intense for a breakup.
Only John would think that. Okay, are we done for today, John?
I think so. And folks can go join us on Brad's brand new Westplex Talk Facebook page. And you can find that at johncombest.com or via Google. You know what, John? I had such fun on this show, the morning show. I'm going to go back to the CWE and get another one of those magic mushroom pizzas. I'll meet you at Magic Mushroom.
And I'm going to have another banger, as John would say. John has these certain terms. It's a banger of a show, right? A banger of a show.
It's a banger of a show,
Brad. A banger of a show.
You had one today.
Right. Okay. Say goodbye, John.
See you tomorrow.